Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and I was always told I had a voice radio, so today I am showing you an exciting new Heracross card that is coming out in the Pokémon trading card game in Burning Shadows. It could be quite interesting. Now, the picture we have is quite blurry. We're not 100% on the translation, but we feel pretty good. So we're going to show you an analysis of this. And if it turns out to be different, I will, of course, issue an amendment in due course. Now, the fact that it's a basic grass Pokemon means that you can use the snappily titled Ether Paradise Conservation Area to reduce damage done to it by attacks, which is always nice. And we've got a couple good choices for tools here. We've got the now and soon to be forever ubiquitous Choice Band that allows you to do an extra 30 damage, or being a basic, we can use Fighting Fury Belt to give it an extra 40 HP and allow him to do an extra 10 damage. And the extra HP is quite nice because he's already sitting on 120, which as it is pretty good for a basic. But we have an interesting ability here and an interesting attack. Starting off with the ability, if it would be KO'd by your opponent's attack, flip a coin. If heads, it's not knocked out, and its remaining HP becomes 10 instead. Now, this should bring a couple of old cards to mind. Firstly, we've got Focus Sash, although remember that Focus Sash would only protect you if you had full HP. If you had just a teensy bit of damage on you, Focus Sash would do nothing. And we've also got the Promo Celebi, which has seen a little bit of play here or there, that had a nice ability, when it's knocked out, flip a coin. If heads, shuffle it into your deck. This is a similar thing, except if it would be knocked out by an attack, then you flip a coin, and if you hit a heads, you leave it on 10 HP and move on with your life. Now, clearly, like a lot of these things, it comes down to the coin flip. If you can flip a heads here, this is absolutely phenomenal. If you can flip several heads in a row, then Heracross just literally becomes invincible. It can have that 10 HP remaining from a previous heads, and your opponent can do as much damage as they like, but if you hit another heads, you are completely and utterly off the hook, and you're fine. This is a wonderful ability, because it really does mean that flipping heads, you're off the hook. But of course, the ability to keep you alive is good, but only if there is a good attack to use with it, and the answer is there might be. 2 grass energy, 50 damage is nothing to write home about. But it makes your opponent switch their active, and we're not 100%, it might work like a Lysander, but the translation we have at the moment says that it works like a repel. You make your opponent switch, but they have the choice of which Pokemon they switch into. But a free repel is pretty good, and being able to force your opponent out of the active is really nice, because if your opponent hasn't got a really good attacker on the bench, and they don't have a free retreater sitting on the bench, then they are just going to essentially have to put something in the active, and then have to waste an energy to retreat it, or even worse, waste a turn not able to attack. And the attack cost of 2 grass is awkward. You could always use Lurantis GX to power this up. With Flower Supply, you do attach 2 grass energy to your bench. That's quite nice. And it can do some nice damage here. Firstly, you've got Choice Band, as I mentioned earlier, which puts it from 50 up to 80, which is always good. But going with the theme of Lurantis here, you can use the new Promo Lurantis, which has just been released. And now you can do an extra 20 damage per turn. And this is a lot of setup that's not really realistic to get going all the time, but in theory, with 4 Lurantis and a Choice Band, you're actually going up to 160 damage here, which, if you really wanted to go to a Professor Kukui as well, could hit for 180 and one-hit KO most EXs. Now, don't get me wrong, Choice Band, Kukui, and 4 Lurantis is a lot. It's unlikely, but I'm raising it here as a possibility. I mean, really here, we're looking at this as a potential tech in a Lurantis deck, because you can use Lurantis to get the energy on, you can use Lurantis to allow it to do more damage, and then it's a nice attacker to just sit there doing a bunch of damage and potentially gaining immunity. It's a nice Hail Mary play if you're a couple prizes behind and you need to catch a couple prizes up in the prize race. Then you just use Heracross, and if you can flip some heads, you can take some prizes and get back into the running here. It's a difficult thing to do, but when it works, it will be amazing. And the thing that it's really got going for it here, it's a basic Pokemon that could easily fit into a good deck like Lurantis. Ultimately though, I feel it's a little bit too gimmicky, and I'm going to give it and it's late in the evening and I'm not in my right time zone still, but I'm going to give it a probably far too generous 3 Wassies. And the reason is very simple. 3 Wassie cards, and the Wassie system is not perfect, but a 3 Wassie card means you need a couple copies in your binder. And if I'm playing a Lurantis deck, and I'm thinking I may well be playing it quite a bit, as a one-off tech, just for when I'm behind in the prizes, to try and steal some KOs without being KO'd back, this seems pretty good to me. Although do remember that this is an ability, which means if your opponent plays a Hex Maniac, or has a Garbodor out, or an Alolan Muck, or a Silent Lab, because it's a basic, then the ability will be turned off and they can KO you without you having to flip a coin. Now you know the deal, ladies and gentlemen, there is a comment section. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter @TheWassie. The most important thing as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.